Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Mentors Connect podcast. I'm your host, Chloe. And today on the podcast, we have Craig Challen, who, he's done quite a few things. He's a cave diver, a former vet, but probably most notably, he was the Joint Australian of the Year in 2019 for his involvement in the Thailand cave rescue. So today, very excited to be talking to Craig about his background, how he's built mental strength, a bit about the Thai cave rescue and what he hopes to be his legacy. So thank you so much, Craig, for meeting me this morning.
Well, thanks, Chloe. Great to be with you.
So getting us started, tell us, how did you were a vet, you cave dive, how did you get into all these things?
Well, look, everybody always wants you to have some sort of grand plan for how you've lived your life. And it's interesting, in the unlikely event that you get to be as old as I am, you will realize that you look back on history and there's this temptation to think that, history just evolves as a series of events leading to an inevitable conclusion. And it's not really like that. And you want to remember that there is uncertainty at the time and nobody knows what's going to happen. And so you just do the best you can do. And I would love to say that I'd had some strategy for my life and I had it all worked out and these were my goals and I worked towards them and achieved it, but it's actually not like that at all. And I just lurched from crisis to crisis and did the best that I could at the time. And that's just the way it goes. And, I'm very happy that through circumstances, everything's gone pretty well for me and I've had an absolutely charmed life.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. So now I want you to get on to a few questions I've prepared. And firstly, I don't think I could ever do cave diving. It seems quite daunting. You're going all the way under, into the sea and the depths. So how do you mentally prepare yourself for that?
Well, first of all, let me scold you a bit for saying you don't think you could ever do something like that. Don't say that. If you don't want to do cave diving, that's fine. Don't do cave diving. Although I would recommend it to you because it's pretty good fun, and it's certainly been the formative experience of my life. I've been able to go all over the world and find some fantastic things, but at least be honest with yourself and say, if you're not going to do cave diving, it's because you choose not to. And I accept that it's not for everyone. I've always been inclined towards adventure sports. It's been great for me. And that's what I like doing. And I understand that not everybody wants to do that. But the same things, there's a lot of stuff that I don't really want to do as well, or haven't engaged in. Unfortunately, there's only 24 hours in the day, even for me, and which seems quite unfair. But if you don't want to do anything, don't say. Don't make some feeble excuse about it's you couldn't do it because
it's a bit scary.
they talk about externalized locus of control, but you should internalize that locus of control and take responsibility for your decisions that you're making. And so as far as how do you prepare yourself, it's going back to what I said before. I mean, nobody knows what's going to happen in the future, and so you've just got to do the best you can do. And I've always tried to be the strongest and most robust person that I can in order to prepare myself for whatever uncertain events the future holds. And I always like to say that everybody's going to face some tests in their lives. And it's not, clearly not everybody's going to do a cave rescue. I didn't see that coming, and I had no idea that was going to eventuate. But all sorts of things will happen. I mean, people will have difficulties in their personal lives, or financial problems, or problems with their career, or illness in themselves, or somebody around you, or getting caught in a natural disaster or a war or something like that. I mean, nobody knows that stuff's going to happen. And so you can't prepare yourself for it, as in make a list of things that would be good attributes or skills to have. But all you can do is just broaden your skills and experience and your outlook. I mean, obviously, just physically be as fit and healthy and strong as you can, and the same thing mentally as well. Broaden your outlook, learn as much as you can, not just about what you do, but about all the things that you don't do, and that will give you the flexibility and hopefully the capability to cope with whatever comes your way.
No, wow, that's amazing. Now, I've actually got a few questions I'm going to ask off the cuff. Like, I've always been pretty curious. So, when it was all unfolding, the situation, in Thailand in 2018, how did you actually get involved? Like, did you put yourself up, or did someone recognize your skills, both being a veterinarian previously and then also your cave diving?
So my dive buddy that I've been diving with for a long time, Richard Harris, and I, we both had an interest in cave rescue for quite some time. And I've got to admit that came about through selfish reasons, because we thought, well, maybe one day it'll be us that needs to be rescued. And so there'd better be some techniques and some skills available to do that. And so we had started working on ways of extracting someone through a flooded cave, if that ever needed to happen. And we always thought of it in terms of there being an injured cave diver or caver. Never really thought that there'd be some junior soccer team in northern Thailand that would go and get themselves stuck in a cave for a couple of weeks. But that's just the way that it turned out. And we were watching like everybody else when these events unfolded. And we were just sort of hanging out to get the call. The actual direct reason that we got involved is because the first two divers that were on site, couple of UK divers, Rick Stanton and John Valanthan, we know them really well, particularly Rick. We've done a lot of diving with him in the past and been on quite a few expeditions. And so at the beginning of the time, we all thought most likely these boys have perished in the cave during the initial flooding event. We didn't really expect that much for them to be found alive. So when it became apparent that they were all fit and healthy inside there and waiting to be rescued, we definitely put our hands up. We had that connection with Rick anyway, and then some sort of complicated mechanism involving the Thai government and the Australian government happened. And to this day, I don't really understand what went on, but we got the call and away we went.
Wow, that's unbelievable. You did a lot. And obviously it was great to see, that the mission overall was a success. They all got out safe, which is really good. And I actually want to link to that. And I wanted, hopefully, if you could describe the feeling of when you knew they're all safe out of the cave, and obviously along with the flurry of all the media.
Yeah, well, look, as far as how I felt, I can only say pretty good, really. Look, I've got to be honest with you. We didn't really expect it to work, this extraction. We were fully prepared for casualties while we were trying to get those boys out. And everybody always wants you to put a number on it, and we didn't know, but we were sort of, I was anticipating that maybe half of them wouldn't make it out, and it wouldn't have surprised me that much if none of them got out, but they did. So nothing like this has ever been done before, and particularly, I don't know if everybody that's listening is aware, but we anaesthetized these boys to bring them out, which is pretty radical stuff. I mean, you're not supposed to anesthetize people and then put their heads underwater for 3 hours, and so didn't really anticipate that we were going to get away from that. So it was just at the end of that third day when we got the final people out, it was just relief more than anything else. It had been a bit of pressure on. I really like cave diving, but I was pretty glad that I didn't have to go into that cave for another day. I'd had enough by that stage.
No, fair enough. But, that was so amazing to also watch on here from Australia. Everyone was just rooting for it, and it was great to see that it was a success. So
well, we had no idea at the time that it was such a big story. We were doing our own thing, and we weren't watching TV or reading the newspapers while that was going on. We were just sort of head down doing the job that we were there to do. And it was only really when it ended that I realized that it had been this huge story and people all over the world had been watching. So, you don't expect that in your day-to-day life.
No. And, subsequently that, you, all the media, you gained a lot of influence. People really looked up to you, as a source of inspiration and strength. So linking to that, how do you feel about, all of that and now being such an inspirational figure, both in Australia and around the world?
Well, quite surprised, really. It's not, you get put up on this pedestal if you've done something like this. But all of the divers that were involved in this, they're just ordinary guys with, maybe a bit of an unusual hobby that probably most people had never even heard of until this rescue happened in cave diving. But still, we just do our own thing, and there's nothing special about us. We've just like to explore. That's really the driver for doing this. So when all of a sudden you get used to hanging out at the Governor General's house in Canberra, which is quite a nice address, very, very nice view over the lake there. And being on media, having reporters turn up, and probably the weirdest thing of all is just getting recognised in the street. People see you walking down. Hey, are you that guy, that cave guy? And it's what I find always a bit amusing about it is people see you as a sort of two-dimensional figure when you come to public notice. And for all that I've done in my life, I've had this long period of adventuring, but I've also had a professional career and a business career and all this other stuff. But all I'm known as is one of those Thai cave rescue guys. And so I always say to people that if you meet someone that is well known, sort of look behind them, and the really interesting thing is, what is it that's happened in their lives that brought them to that time and place where they did this thing or were engaged in a set of circumstances that brought them to your attention. I always think that's the most interesting part of it, and I guess that's what you're doing here today. So well done. Thank you. No, that's good. And before we start finishing up, I was just hoping, I know you you're a normal everyday guy, you're very humble, which is amazing. But, now with your influence, having hung around the Governor Generals, and all of that, what do you hope to do with your voice and your influence? Well, look, I have no pretense or presumptuousness that I'm going to have any sort of legacy or anything like that. It's you do have a bit of a legacy now. You're gone. But I guess if look, this is going to sound a bit corny, but really anybody can do anything. It's a matter of just setting your mind to it. And one thing that's really broadened my horizons and opened my eyes a bit, I've met a lot of famous people and well-known people since this Thai cave rescue. And you realize as you chat to them, most of them are pretty down to earth, and they all, you might hold them up there on a pedestal, but they all get up in the morning and put their trousers on one leg at a time, just like everybody else. And it's open to anybody to do absolutely anything. I know I probably sound like your mother or something, but it is absolutely true. We put these limits on ourselves and say stuff like, I can't do that, Chloe. But but you absolutely can. You've just got to make that decision and work hard at it, and have application, and you can achieve absolutely extraordinary things.
Well, I think that's a pretty good way to end this podcast episode. Thank you so much, Craig, for talking to us, sharing with us all these amazing insights. It's been really great to talk to you. It's just been such a great source of inspiration.
Oh, it was super. Thanks very much for having me on.